Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Protein X Protein Abhiyaan. In Season 1, we introduced you to the alarming fact that India is not having enough protein in their diet. 7 out of 10 adults have poor protein intake. We created awareness around how to recognize if you're not consuming enough protein in a day and other little known but highly relevant facts of concern in protein deficiency in the country.
द्वितीय सीजन में आगे बढ़ते हैं और बात करते हैं कि भारतवासियों को सेहतमंद कैसे बनाएं। प्रोटीन की मुनासिब मात्रा की कमी से स्वास्थ्य की कई समस्याएं पैदा होती हैं। इस बात की जागरूकता पूरे भारत तक कैसे पहुंचाई जाए, प्रोटीन से क्या फायदा होगा और मैं इसे अपने खाने में कैसे शामिल करूं, ये कहां से मिलेगा, दूसरे लोग प्रोटीन कैसे लेते हैं, महिलाएं, बच्चे, स्वास्थ्य सेवा कर्मी, और क्या आहार की बुनियादी चीजों के बारे में उनकी और जागरूकता बढ़ाई जा सकती है। इन सारे सवालों के जवाब आज आपको यहां पर मिलेंगे। मेरा नाम है अरुण सिंह
And I'm Ambika Singh Kama. And of course, through the Protein X Protein Abhiyaan, we will continue to drive the message on why protein is important, spread awareness about how our consumption of protein is inadequate, and what we need to do to up the intake. Taking the conversation forward, joining us today are Mr. Shriram Padmanabhan, Marketing Director, Danone India, Padma Shri awarded actor Raveena Tandon, Dr. Sunil Mishra, Senior Director, Endocrinology and Diabetology, Medanta, the Medicity, Dr. Indira Chakravarti, Padma Shri Awarded, Public Health Specialist, and Dr. Shikha Sharma, Founder and Managing Director, NutriWell Health India. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Dr. Indira ji, I would like to start with you as a public health specialist. You've also received and you've been honored with a Padma Shri. You work extensively on health and nutrition. If you can tell us how grave is the issue of protein deficiency in our country?
Ambika, I'm extremely happy that you are bringing forward the problem of protein deficiency. I'm not saying that micronutrient is not important. They're equally important. But I think in the last couple of years, we've found that the importance of protein has taken a second place when you think of micronutrient deficiency. So I think it's equally important, looking into the multifarious and multifunctional activities the proteins have. And therefore, as we look into the name protein, as you know, it comes from an old, I suddenly remembered, from an old Greek word proteos, which means the first rank. So it's possibly, it's a very, very important thing. Looking into the present Indian situation, as you just mentioned, about 73% Indians, it was a 2017 study, who are deficient in proteins, as you said, 7 out of 10 people. And that actually gives a lot of problem with muscle weakness, muscle health. And another study had shown that more than 71% people in the age group of 30 to 55 years have poor muscle health. So all these indicate that it's a very, very important issue for us to consider, because while globally the protein intake is going up, it's, I think, reaches nearly 70%, now 68 to 70%, we are actually going down.
डॉक्टर शिखा शर्मा भी हैं हमारे साथ। आप रोज बहुत सारे लोगों से इंटरैक्ट करती हैं। अगर सिर्फ भारतीय आहार की बात करें तो उसमें प्रोटीन की कमी रहती है, ऐसा बहुत सारे एक्सपर्ट्स ने ऑलरेडी पॉइंट किया है। ऐसा क्यों है? और ना केवल कमी है, लेकिन वो अनुभव भी नहीं है, वो एक तरह से अभाव भी नहीं होता उसका। तो उसके पीछे आपको क्या लगता है, क्या वजह है?
कई वजहें हैं। सबसे पहले अगर आप देखें, जो हमारा डाइजेस्टिव ट्रैक्ट है वो अब्जॉर्ब सही से नहीं करता, बिकॉज इतने टॉक्सिन्स हमारे डाइट में होते हैं, इतने रॉन्ग फूड कॉम्बिनेशंस हम खाते हैं कि हमारा अब्जॉर्प्शन, जिसको हम गट बायोम कहते हैं, तो हमारा गट बायोम कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड है। नंबर 1। नंबर 2 है कि जब भी हम प्रोटीन की बात करते हैं तो हमारी डाइट में नॉर्मली चावल, रोटी और इस तरह पे ज़्यादा जोर है। दालें हैं, सब्जियां हैं, इनफैक्ट सब्जियों में भी प्रोटीन है, दालों में है, स्प्राउट्स में है, मगर हमारा एक टेंडेंसी है कि हम आलू, चावल और इन चीज़ों को ज़्यादा खाएंगे, सब्जियों को, दाल को और बाकी जो सोर्सेज हैं प्रोटीन की, उनको कम खाएंगे। तीसरी चीज़ जो है वो जो इम्पोर्टेंट है कि नॉर्मली जैसे आप डेफिशिएंसी ज़्यादातर विमेन में, महिलाओं में ज़्यादा है। और क्यों? क्योंकि महिलाएं एक तो थोड़ा सा अपने को पीछे रखती हैं। जैसे परिवार में आपने देखा होगा कि अगर दूध देना है तो वो बच्चों को मिलेगा या जो पुरुषों को मिलेगा, तो महिलाएं दूध और ये सारी चीज़ें अपने को लास्ट रखती हैं, कई बार नहीं खाती हैं। तो एक हमारे कल्चरल फैक्टर्स भी बहुत हैं, हमारे जो ये जो
माँ की ममता है उसकी वजह से भी मुझे लगता है कि वो बहुत सारी औरतें जो हैं वो अपने आप को बाद में रखती हैं और बच्चों को या फिर परिवार को आगे।
जी।
इनफैक्ट आपने बहुत अच्छी तरह ये बात समझाई क्योंकि वेरी ऑफन दैट हैपेंस कि सेल्फ केयर महिलाएं अपने पर फोकस नहीं कर पाती. लेट्स गो अक्रॉस टू रवीना टंडन. रवीना, थैंक यू फॉर जॉइनिंग अस टुडे. Tell us, protein deficiency we know is a severe health condition that many people across our country are facing. Awareness is a big issue when it comes to consuming proteins. Ravina, how do you think awareness will help to bridge this gap?
I think it's very, very important to spread the awareness because honestly, जब तक ये पैनल नहीं हुआ था, मैंने भी इतना फोकस नहीं किया था. बट जैसे कि डॉक्टर साहब ने कहा कि being a mother and being a parent, वो ऑटोमेटिकली अपने बच्चे को एक सही पालन पोषण देने की एक जो इच्छा होती है वो हर माँ में होती है. एंड तो हम पहले से ही सोचते हैं इनको एक बैलेंस न्यूट्रिशन कैसे दिया जाए, हर मील बैलेंस कैसे हुआ जाए. लेकिन कई बार ऐसे होता है कि हमको प्रॉपर जानकारी नहीं होती है. सो आई एम टॉकिंग ऑन अ मास लेवल. आई मीन मी though being more aware and trying to study whether it's through the internet or asking the pediatrician or talking to a nutritionist, I can get that information.
Absolutely. In fact, what you said, Ravina, it's about awareness. It is this lack of awareness that we have been trying to address through the Protein X Protein Abhiyaan. Let's take a quick look at what we achieved in season 1.
Today we're focusing on health and nutrition, especially on proteins and the vital role they play in the health of our population.
Proteins are one of the 3 macronutrients in the body. Proteins, fats and carbohydrates. Proteins play a very important role in our muscle building, in our bones. Our diets do not have enough protein sources. There is also a lack of awareness about the importance of protein with the average person. So I think these factors make it important for us now to understand the importance of protein, number 1, and number 2, how to get enough protein in our diets. Typical conservative estimate of protein requirement for a human being is 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight. If we actually are able to improve protein intake throughout life, including in the elderly, we will find that we can improve their muscle mass, improve their muscle strength, reduce their falling rates, hasten the recovery after osteoporotic fractures. So I think it's a whole spectrum.
Given that we are the category captains over here, it prompted us to start the Protein Week, and we started this in the year 2017. We are now in the 6th year, of the Protein Week running over here, and our mission is very simple. Our mission is to educate Indians on the role of protein, let them know as to who is it for, what it can do for you. More importantly, how much they should be having.
There is a very large role of NGOs, development agencies and the government itself in terms of saying how do we increase access to protein-rich foods for everybody.
Mr. Shriram, coming to you, Protein X has been committed for very long to the cause of raising awareness about the deficiency of protein and, getting adequate levels of protein intake. Tell us, why has Protein X chosen this path?
Thanks for the question, Ambika. So it all starts with our mission as Danone. We believe that we have to bring health through food to as many people as possible, and on this front, Protein X has been spearheading. It has been in India for the last 60 years, and it is almost a flag bearer when it comes to protein and protein advocacy. So when it comes to, I think we all spoke about the fact that if India has to be healthy, and if all Indians have to be healthy, it has to start with the basics. Yeah. And the basics start with what is there in our diet. And one of the most important macronutrients in our diet is protein. Unfortunately, in India, this very basic building block, is quite deficient. It's not only deficient; people are also not aware about it, of how big this deficiency is and what it can lead to as an implication. I think keeping this in mind, we started the Protein X Abhiyaan last year, and I can, proudly say that, it was a very good success. We reached out to more than 20 million people, driving awareness about the importance and role of protein. More than 130,000 Indians took a pledge that they will question their diet, what are they having? They will question, are they having enough protein? And I think for us, the success comes from if, with all these initiatives, do people feel better? Do they feel more healthy? And we got a resounding success, from the initiative that we have had last year. And hence, we are even more encouraged, we are even more inspired, to take this initiative on an even bigger impact.
बहुत सराहना करते हैं हम इसकी। और अब डॉक्टर मिश्रा, आपके लिए एक सवाल कि हमने मान लिया है कि देखिए डेफिशिएंसी है प्रोटीन की, लेकिन अगर किसी में डेफिशिएंसी है तो उसे पहचाने कैसे, उसके लक्षण क्या हैं?
ये बड़ा मुश्किल होता है कि डेफिशिएंसी को जो कि क्रॉनिक हो रही है उसको अप्रिशिएट करना, क्योंकि अगर कोई डेफिशिएंसी लंबे समय से चल रही है तो हमारी लाइफ उसमें एकस्टम्ड हो जाती है। हम थोड़ा सा वीक हो रहे हैं, थकान लग रही है, हमने अपने को ट्यून कर लिया और हमने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया कि मेरा लाइफ तो ऐसा ही है, मैं इतना ही काम कर पाऊंगा या काम कर पाऊंगी। एक्स एंड पेन्स हो रहे हैं बॉडी में, कोई चीज़ लिफ्ट कर रहे हैं उसके बाद मसल फटीग हो रही है, शाम तक आदमी को लगता है कि उसको थकान लग रही है। तो ये सब चीज़ें हमने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया ओवर द टाइम। बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है कि हम इंडियंस को ये जानना कि हम लोगों का बॉडी में प्रोटीन की कमी होने की वजह से मसल मास काफ़ी कम होता है। हम लोग फिजिकल एक्टिविटी को अपनी कल्चर में ही नहीं रखते हैं। डॉक्टर शिखा से ये हमारा डिस्कशन हो रहा था कि हम लोग कल्चरली एक्सेप्ट कर लिया कि हम ऐसे रखते। सो ओवर द टाइम जो आपका सवाल है कि हम कैसे प्रोटीन डेफिशिएंसी को पहचानें, ऑब्वियसली मसल मास आपका बहुत ज़रूरी है। आपको अप्रिशिएट करना कि आपका मसल मास कम हो रहा है, मसल वीक हो रही हैं, लिम्ब थिनिंग हो रही है। आप सिंपल एक इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पीडेंस से बॉडी कंपोजिशन एनालिसिस कर लीजिए, उसमें पता लग जाएगा। हमने अपने डिपार्टमेंट में किया, जितने डायबिटिक लोग आते हैं और जो कंट्रोल आते हैं उनको देखा, उनके रिलेटिव्स को देखा, अधिकतर लोगों में मसल मास की कमी है। सो इसको आपको कुछ दिखाने की जरूरत नहीं, जस्ट लाइक ए मिरर, राइट? सो वी इंडियंस हैव लेस मसल मास, प्रोटीन डेफिशिएंट हैं और अब हमको करेक्शन करना है, अब हमको ज़्यादा प्रूव करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है।
तो रवीना ने एक बहुत अहम पॉइंट उठाया था कि वेजिटेरियंस का क्या, और इससे पहले मैं रवीना से सवाल पूछूं, डॉक्टर शिखा के पास मैं एक बार जाना चाहूंगा वेजिटेरियंस का क्या, बिकॉज और ये मेरा पर्सनल सवाल भी है एज अ वेजिटेरियन कि किस तरीके के सोर्सेज की ओर हम देख सकते हैं?
वेजिटेरियंस को प्रोटीन नहीं मिलता, ये अपने में मिथ है और ये कई डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज इस पे बन चुकी हैं। वेजिटेरियंस अवेयर नहीं है कि कहाँ से मिलता, ये सही है। सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर आप जितने भी नट्स एंड ऑयल सीड्स देखिए, मूंगफली से लेके आप तिल की सीड्स या जितने भी नट्स एंड ऑयल सीड्स देखिए, उनमें प्रोटीन अच्छा क्वालिटी प्रोटीन है। अगर आप पालक देखिए या कितने भी लीफी वेजिटेबल्स देखिए, उसमें प्रोटीन है। अगर आप देखते हैं जो अनपॉलिश्ड राइस है या जो अनपॉलिश्ड ग्रेन्स हैं, प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमने मॉडर्नाइजेशन के साथ रिफाइंड फूड खाना बहुत शुरू कर दिया, मैदा, सूजी, कॉर्नफ्लावर, वाइट पॉलिश्ड राइस। तो ऑटोमेटिकली हमारा जो एब्जॉर्प्शन और हमारा जो असिमिलेशन प्रोटीन का है वो कम हो गया है। तो अगर कोई वेजिटेरियन डाइट में प्रोटीन लेना चाहता है तो बहुत से सोर्सेज हैं। दूध दही तो सभी को पता है, मगर उसके अलावा अगर आप वेजिटेबल्स देखें, अगर आप नट्स एंड ऑयल सीड्स देखिए, मूंगफली देखिए, मूंगफली महंगी नहीं है। अगर आप देखें कि जो लीफी सब्जियां आती हैं, बथुआ है, मेथी है, पालक है, तो ये सारे अगर आप पर्याप्त क्वांटिटी में ले रहे हैं, आपको प्रोटीन डेफिशिएंसी नहीं होगी। प्रॉब्लम है पीपल हैव अ बैड डाइट, पीपल हैव अ बैड फूड चॉइसेस।
रवीना, आपके सवाल का जवाब तो यहाँ पर हमने डॉक्टर शिखा से ले लिया। एक सवाल आपसे है कि आप पर्दे पर कई किरदार निभाती हैं और पर्दे के पीछे आप एक माँ हैं, एक कलाकार हैं, जानी मानी हस्ती हैं। ऐसे में आप अपने परिवार और खुद को पर्याप्त पोषण और प्रोटीन देने के लिए क्या करती हैं? अगर आप अपना पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस बता पाए।
देखिए, पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस तो यही है कि ग्रोइंग किड्स को तो बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि हम सब जानते हैं बेसिक लॉजिक के प्रोटीन क्यों हमारी बॉडी के लिए जरूरी है। बच्चे खेलते कूदते हैं, गिरते हैं, उनको इंजरीज होती हैं, तो वो टिश्यूज रिपेयर में, मसल रिपेयर में काम आता है हमारा प्रोटीन जो हमारे बॉडी के अंदर है। ये जो हमारे सेल्स हैं उनको रीडेवलप करने में काम आता है। डॉक्टर्स बैठे हैं इतने ज्ञानी जानी आगे, तो मैं ज्यादा नहीं बोलना चाहूंगी, लेकिन बेसिकली ये पॉइंट है कि माँ के लिए क्यों इम्पोर्टेंट है कि हमारे बच्चे प्रोटीन एफिशिएंट रहे उनकी बॉडीज, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं बढ़ते खेलते कूदते उनको चोटें लगती हैं और वो जल्दी हील करते हैं वुंड्स को। उनको चाहे आप अभी आप बच्चों की बात कर रहे हैं, हम तो हमारी बात करते हैं। शूटिंग के दौरान ही हमको कितनी चोटें और कभी कभी कुछ हो जाता है, कभी फ्रैक्चर हो जाता है, कभी घोड़े से गिर जाते हैं, कभी कहीं भागते भागते गिर जाते हैं, अगर भागने का सीन हो, या डांस करते करते हमको इंजरीज हो जाती हैं। तो उसके लिए हमारी बॉडीज को भी एट अ सर्टेन एज, I'm nearing 50 now, so even for me at my age, it is so important कि मैं रखूं अपने आप को strong and solid, and I think protein is so necessary. बहुत सारे जो aged लोग होते हैं, जो 60s, 70s, 80s तक पहुंच जाते हैं, उनको जो muscle loss हो जाता है, उनके weak हो जाते हैं muscles, उसके लिए I think these forms of powder and extra balanced diet is very very necessary. So अगर personally पूछे तो मैंने ज्यादातर बहुत ही ध्यान दिया है इस बात के बारे में।
डॉक्टर इंदिरा की तरफ बढ़ते हैं। देखिए, भारत में खाने में प्रोटीन की खपत जितनी होनी चाहिए उससे काफी कम है। हमें कितना प्रोटीन खाना चाहिए और प्रोटीन की कमी से निपटने के लिए सरकार की रेकमेंडेड डाइट अलाउंस व्हिच इज RDA वो कितनी है?
We have major programs on nutrition, and Niti Aayog has recently taken out a circular saying that the protein part has to be increased. Just come out there, and we have the Garib Kalyan Yojana which has come out after the pandemic, which actually gives you now 5 kgs of rice and 1 kg of pulses. So protein comes from that pulses. So these are programs that are being taken out. But the major programs we have on food net system are the ICDS, the midday meal, and the PDS, three of them. If you look into the proportion of proteins that goes into it, in the ICDS, I think they give about 500 calories, and for children, it's only about 12 to 15 grams of protein for children, and about 25 grams for adolescent girls. The midday meal, I think, gives you much less of protein, maybe exactly can't remember, 8 to 10% or something, for the 300 calories of total thing they give per day from the midday meal. PDS substance gives substitutes protein, gives you protein. I think it's about little over 3% for the urban areas, and I think little over 7% for the rural areas. A little this way, that way. So I think if you look into the per gram requirement and look into the amount of protein that they get from the government programs, actually is much less. But you can't ask the government to give them the entire protein or the programs to give entire protein. But I think one way could be that enhance this a little bit more to the ICS or midday meal. The best thing will be if PDS can give more subsidized. They give subsidized food, they don't give it free. So if they can give more subsidized food with a higher protein content, not just 3% to 7%, but little higher protein content. So PDS could be a very sort of a good method of enhancing protein intake.
So which will help improve access for everybody through these schemes. I mean, of course, like you said, anyway we are taking intake of protein is less, but once they have access to these schemes, it will help. If I can just come to you, Dr. Mishra, so now that we know the recommended dietary allowance, Indra ji just told us, how does it vary from patient to patient? And also, can you give us some examples of patients with different ailments who come to you with the amount of protein which is required for their recovery?
The amount of the protein consumed by people and the patient, I will talk specifically about the diabetic patient who visits us, is very meager. So hardly they take 50% of their required amount of the protein. And what entails, they take more carbohydrate instead of taking the protein. So if I see patients who are coming from, say, rural part and the tier 2 and tier 3 town, so they take more carbs, and their diet is calculated how many chapatis they are taking, and the part of the pulses, if they are vegetarian, so very small. And while we are discussing about the vegetarians, we are actually not vegetarians, we are contaminated vegetarian. So what do I mean by contaminated vegetarian? We kill the vegetables and then eat it, right? We deep fry, we put a lot of oil into it. The source of vegetable, the for essence of the vegetable is actually killed in terms of. And similarly, when it happens to protein, we were discussing about our introspection about the diet is nothing. We eat food because of the compulsion. We eat food because of the taste. The essence of the food is to provide the nutrition to body, keep it healthy. Now, coming specifically the question you asked, the spectrum of the people with the diabetes, I have two major problem now which we are facing. The age of the onset of the diabetes, especially the type 2 diabetes, is going into younger and younger generation. So earlier we used to see the diabetes happening in 50 plus, now between 40 to 50, now in 30s, and now we are also seeing people at younger age coming below 30 with the type 2 diabetes. This type 2 diabetes is a very, very aggressive problem in younger age population. So they need to rebalance their snacks with adequate amount like seeds, nuts and grains. And people who are in the rural areas, simple chana and mungfali also helps them in bringing down their protein adequate intake and also control the glycemia.
So I think making the right food choices, I mean, once you have awareness, once you know, I think making the right food choices. Mr. Shriram, if I can just ask you, what are some of the myths around protein? Like we definitely know, like you were saying, for patients, they just, reduce their intake even more, like dal ka pani pi dete, which is so true. We hear that every now and then, it's high, so reduce your protein intake. That's very often we hear. Tell us the myths around protein. What really are the facts?
Yeah, thanks for the question, and I think thanks for a very enriching discussion, around this topic. I think, in terms of misinformation,
yes.
or the myths that we call, it is working at different levels. I think the first and the foremost is, what does protein do? For example, there is a myth that, the protein is only for muscles. There is no role of protein beyond muscles, and I think, ma'am very eloquently put that it has a function beyond it. It has a function in bones, it has a function, for hair, for skin, for your basic immunity, of how, your body functions. So there is this myth in India that when you think of protein, think only muscles. So that's not a very, yes. So which brings me back to the second point. Who is it for? So there is this large, myth, perception that, protein should be consumed by only those people who are into rigorous exercise, who are into strength training, who are, who are leading a very active lifestyles, or people who are recovering from, for example, from surgeries, and, they have been recommended, by their doctors. What people don't realize is that, it is important to maintain, your lifestyle. It is important to maintain your health. It has a very important role in your everyday health. Third is to do with how much we should be having. It's more like a perception, I would say, that people think that we are having enough because there are no visible symptoms of a lack of protein. So if I'm can't see any symptoms, then I must be having good enough protein. Ma'am said, 0.8 gram per kg body weight, which is true, but people don't even have half of it. And the last one is the source of protein. So people do believe, in terms of, incorrect sources, or believing that certain sources have even higher, sense of protein. And on that, I think, I'll just, also bring in one point, so we spoke about vegetarians versus non-vegetarians. But even people who eat non-vegetarian, they don't have it every day. Yeah. It is more of a weekend phenomenon. It is more, a lot of people, it's a luxury, a meal, that they have. It is more for enjoyment. So yes, people might say that they do have non-vegetarian food, but it is parked, for a Saturday or a Sunday, when they have time. So these are the four, layers on which there are, certain myths around both the awareness and the usage of protein.
हर एक जो पॉइंट आपने बोला वो वाकई यही प्रूव करता है कि प्रोटीन और हमारी सेहत के बीच में एक गहरा नाता है। भारत के हर कोने में आशा दीदियां स्वास्थ्य सेवाएं पहुंचाती हैं। सिर्फ बुनियादी स्वास्थ्य सेवाएं नहीं, बल्कि आपात सेवाएं भी, खासकर कुपोषित माओं और बच्चों को। उनको सेहतमंद रखने के लिए प्रोटीन जैसे जरूरी पोषक तत्व भी उन तक पहुंचाती हैं। लेकिन खुद आशा कर्मियों को तमाम कमियों का सामना करना पड़ता है। आखिरकार ये भी उन्हीं समुदायों का हिस्सा होती है।
Asha workers are the bedrock of India's primary healthcare system. There are more than 1 million Asha workers like Ranjana Dwivedi who work on the front line, making the time and effort to reach the remotest parts of India. Committed to delivering healthcare to even the smallest and most distant communities, trying to reach each and every house. Ranjana Dwivedi is from Rewa district and travels by boat to get to Guruguda village, for which she is the sole Asha worker. She is visiting a new mother to check on her newborn and deliver medicines. Asha workers like Ranjana Dwivedi and Miranda Devi at this health and wellness center in Manipur perform a wide range of health services, from administering medicines, vaccines and first aid to maternal and infant care, sanitation and hygiene, and providing advice and care for every primary healthcare need possible. In fact, so critical are they to the process of delivering healthcare to every corner, every citizen of India, that last year, India's Asha workers were given the WHO's Global Health Leaders Award for their outstanding contribution towards protecting and promoting health. Asha workers walk for hours to visit every household under their care. Most often, Asha workers are from within the community they are caring for and understand the medical gaps within the community. But very often they themselves face similar health issues, a lack of nutrients or exposure to diseases. The Asha workers' daily routines are strenuous and physically taxing. For them to provide healthcare effectively, it is important to keep the well-being of these frontline health workers at the center of any health and nutrition program. For many communities, the Asha workers aren't just health workers, but also a friend and counselor to the community. Their health is as important as the health of the people they take care of.
इस साल सिर्फ प्रोटीन के बारे में जागरूकता फैलाना ही अभियान का हिस्सा नहीं है, बल्कि प्रोटीन की समझ और हमारी सेहत में उसकी भूमिका भी इसमें शामिल है। ये समझ और फैलाने के लिए हमें आपकी मदद चाहिए। अधिक स्वस्थ भारत और अधिक स्वस्थ आप के लिए हमें आपके संकल्प की जरूरत है। हर 1000 संकल्पों पर एक आशा कर्मी को प्रोटीन एक्स का एक पैक मिलेगा। एक स्वस्थ आशा कर्मी एक स्वस्थ भारत का निर्माण करेगी। वक्त है एक छोटे से ब्रेक का। ब्रेक के बाद देखेंगे कि हमें प्रोटीन कहां से मिल सकता है और हम प्रोटीन तक पहुंच कैसे बढ़ा सकते हैं। देखते रहिए एनडीटीवी।
Welcome back. You're watching the Protein X Protein Abhiyaan, and we're having this conversation that how important protein, which is a micronutrient, how important it is for a healthy India. Starting with you again, Indraji, in the past, the government has done many campaigns to raise awareness on whether it's iodine deficiency, it's iron deficiency when we talk about anemia. Protein deficiency is a major public health problem. We've been discussing it, whether it's about the access of protein, whether it's the awareness, whether it's our intake. What kind of learning can we take from these past government campaigns to address protein deficiency in our country today?
When you look over the years, we don't have any major campaign which has come out on protein energy malnutrition. So I think this is something a campaign is very necessary, and I think where it's not just the government. On one side is awareness for people that you very rightly mentioned, that Asha workers and Anganwadi workers also. I think these two groups of people would be absolutely critical, especially looking into children of mother and children where protein consumption is there. So maybe involving them, a program could be started, Anganwadi workers and Ashas, on how they can be involved in bringing the community, the children and the women and the adolescent girls together. This could be one of the major issues in getting a campaign done. Secondly, as we mentioned, that I think the PDS is where you give subsidized food. There also possibly some campaign can be made to increase the protein subsidy into it and bring that as a campaign factor. They buy this food. That's very, very important. And I think the third thing that we should say that it is not a problem of just the government, where like Danone has come in as an industry. It's very, very important that the industry, the government and the community comes together. So awareness of community, which as everybody has mentioned, awareness of the industry to sort of sort of invest into these programs, and the government through these already existing programs support these issues. This is very important.
रवीना जी, एक औरत खास तौर पर जो माँ है उसके शरीर में कई चुनौतियां भी पैदा हो सकती हैं, तो खासकर महिलाओं के लिए प्रोटीन की कितनी अहम भूमिका है आपके हिसाब से?
आई थिंक बहुत जरूरी है। आप अगर देखें तो जहां तक के हम जब हमारे बच्चे होते हैं तो ड्यूरिंग द प्रेगनेंसी फेज आई थिंक अ वुमन गिव्स एवरी काइंड ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट, कैल्शियम, आवर बॉडी लिटरली जस्ट गिव्स एवरीथिंग व्हाट वी हैव इन आवर रिजर्व्स to make a new life, that is to create a baby and to give the baby the best. तो इवन ड्यूरिंग दैट प्रेगनेंसी फेज एक बैलेंस्ड और एक प्रॉपर न्यूट्रिशन खाना, चाहे आप विटामिन्स एनरिच्ड खाना खा रहे हो या प्रोटीन एनरिच्ड, फॉलिक एसिड एनरिच्ड, ऑल दीज आयरन एनरिच्ड, all these are very very necessary during the pregnancy phase also to have. And उसके बाद तो all the more, क्योंकि जितना लॉस एक while even nursing होता है एक औरत को, जब वो अपनी बेबी को नर्स कर रही है, जब आप ब्रेस्ट फीड कर रहे हो, तो all the more you have to give the best that you have to your child, ताकि बच्चे की बेस जो है वो स्ट्रॉन्ग हो. एक बच्चे का फाउंडेशन, एक बच्चे का बेस जो होता है, जब वो इन्फेंट से टॉडलर स्टेज में जाता है, फ्रॉम टॉडलर टू एडोलेसेंस टू एडल्टहुड, these are the stages of children which I think they need proper nutrition at every stage. तो ये अल्टीमेटली एक माँ की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी हो जाती है, और बच्चे कैरिड अवे हो जाते हैं जंक फूड से. और अभी जितना मैं भी बोल दूं अपने बच्चों को कि चलो ओनली वीकेंड्स जंक फूड आप लोग सिर्फ वीकेंड्स पे अलाउड हो, मंडे टू फ्राइडे प्रॉपर न्यूट्रिशन बैलेंस्ड घर का खाना खाना ही है जो भी हो जाए. पर बच्चों को शौक रहता है, कभी रेस्टोरेंट से मंगा लेते हैं, कभी टेक आउट मंगा लेते हैं, कभी ये होता है कभी वो होता है. तो इसलिए
आप भी डांट की मात्रा बढ़ा देती हैं आप फिर.
हाँ, टोटली पूरा पारा एकदम शॉर्ट फ्यूज हो जाता है बहुत बुरी तरह. पर जितना हम कोशिश करें, हाँ बच्चे तो रिबेल करेंगे, उनको अलग अलग शौक होते हैं, कभी कभी अलाउ भी करना पड़ता है टू मेक इट इंटरेस्टिंग. लेकिन हम यही घर का खाना भी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बना के बच्चों को दे सकते हैं ताकि वो प्रॉपर न्यूट्रिशन हो. आज ही बल्कि सुबह मैं एक टोटली प्रोटीन एनरिच्ड रेसिपी देख रही थी, जो अभी बात हो रही थी स्प्राउटेड मूंग की, जैसे डॉक्टर शिखा ने कहा, स्प्राउटेड मूंग और उसका पूरा चिल्ला बना के उसमें गाजर और पालक वगैरह मिला के उसका चिल्ला प्योर घी में बना के. तो मैं सोच ही रही थी कि मैं कल परसों से स्टार्ट करूंगी ब्रेकफास्ट के लिए बच्चों के लिए. सो दीज आर थिंग्स जो हम एज अ मदर, एज अ वुमन वी कैन डू. औरतों के लिए इट्स वेरी नेसेसरी, क्योंकि हमारा हेयर लॉस होता है, हमारे नेल्स वीक हो जाते हैं आफ्टर प्रेगनेंसी एंड आफ्टर गिविंग बर्थ टू चिल्ड्रन. एक पूरा लिटरली एक डाउनस्लाइड होता है हमारे हेल्थ में. उस समय हमें अपने आप का ख्याल रखना बहुत बहुत जरूरी है. और मैं अपनी महिलाओं को बोलती हूँ, जहां पे भी मैं टॉक्स देती हूँ, कि जब तक आप हेल्दी और स्ट्रांग नहीं रहेंगी तो आप अपने घर को कैसे हेल्दी और स्ट्रांग बनाएंगी. तो इट्स वेरी नेसेसरी कि आप अपने बारे में भी सोचें, और आप आपके न्यूट्रिशन के बारे में सोचें, आपके हेल्थ के बारे में सोचें. दैट्स वेरी नेसेसरी. मेरा एक्चुअली एक सिंपल क्वेश्चन है, हमारे इतने एस्टीम्ड गेस्ट्स हैं टुडे, and this is the right forum, the right panel to ask this question. What are, according to all my esteemed co-panelists over here, the top 5 foods which can be found in the house for protein intake?
Tables have turned. Yeah. There's a panelist who's asked a question from the co-panelists. We can start with you, Vishika.
Yes. So I would say कि वेजिटेरियन नॉन वेजिटेरियन के लिए मैं अलग बताऊंगी. नॉन वेजिटेरियंस के लिए फॉर एग्जांपल आपको पता है एग है, then you have chicken, you have fish. For vegetarians, the top sources I would say are सबसे पहले nuts and oil seeds. Okay. They are very good sources of protein. पनीर हमें पता ही है, dairy products हमें पता ही हैं. Next I would say कि जितनी साग होते हैं उनको हम कभी प्रोटीन नहीं मानते, बट साग में बहुत अच्छा प्रोटीन होता है विच वी शुड हैव. दैट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड देन आई वुड से कि जो भी दालें हैं उनको अगर आप जैसे अंकुरित करें और उनको चटपटा बनाएं, जैसे उनको भेलपुरी की शेप में बना दें, उसमें अनार डाल के, मूंगफली डाल के, तो वो बहुत अच्छे हैं. सो लाइक नट्स एंड ऑयल सीड्स हैं, डेयरी के सोर्सेज हैं, स्प्राउट्स हैं, और आप इनफैक्ट जैसे मटर है, पीज है, बीन्स हैं, तो ये सारे बहुत ही अच्छे सोर्सेज होते हैं प्रोटीन के. एंड इन्होंने जैसे रवीना जी ने बोला बेसन चीला, मूंग दाल चीला है, बेसन चीला है, किनवा इज़ अ वेरी गुड सोर्स ऑफ प्रोटीन, तो उसको मिला के आप चीला बना सकते हैं. तो वो टेस्टी है, डिलिशियस है, हेल्दी है.
डॉक्टर मिश्रा, व्हाट वुड योर सजेशन बी? आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
So I think I agree with Dr. Shikha. We need to look for what is readily available. एक ऐसा सजेशन देना कि आप जो कि पॉसिबल नहीं हो लॉन्ग टर्म में फॉलो करना, वो मुश्किल होता है. नाउ जस्ट रिवॉल्विंग अराउंड द डिस्कशन कि वेयर वी शुड स्टार्ट दिस कैंपेन ऑफ एडिक्वेट प्रोटीन. मेरे ओपिनियन में फैमिली इज द स्मॉलेस्ट यूनिट ऑफ द सोसाइटी, राइट? द होल फैमिली नीड टू अडॉप्ट द हेल्दी हैबिट. We come across people with diabetes. हम बोलते हैं कि आप जरा सा अपना डाइटरी चेंज करिए. बट अदर फैमिली मेंबर, व्हेन आई लुक एट देम, many of them are already having obesity. Children, I see them, they are already overweight, obese. They are already having acanthosis nigricans. So उनमें अभी insulin resistance start हो चुका है. And sometime down the line, they will also come up with diabetes. So which is very scary, because what we are seeing a young onset type 2 diabetes. So what we need to that, the family need to adopt the healthy habit. And that is the where role of the mother, which Ravina ji was also talking about. Role of the mother is most important. So healthy habit सबको follow करनी है. जो unhealthy चीज है वो घर में नहीं रखा जाए.
I think Ravina ji, your question has been answered. What are those foods which we can easily access, have it at home, and most important, you said healthy food made fresh at home. If I can just come to you, Mr. Shriram, like Ravina spoke about how post pregnancy, even before your pregnancy, how much goes into in a woman's life. It's important for them, whether it's lifestyle diseases where the numbers are going up, like for diabetes. All these diseases, all these instances have special protein requirements. How have you been able to provide for these situations and needs specifically?
Now, when it comes to people with diabetes, this is not just an issue of today, but this is becoming an even bigger issue for tomorrow. The way these statistics are at least revealing for us. And what has really been revealed over the last couple of years is that there is an extremely important element of diet and lifestyle in managing diabetes, beyond the triad of medications as well. And in the sense of diet and lifestyle, I think what is extremely important is essentially it is all about glucose management, for people with diabetes. And a lot of people with diabetes also have weight issues. To help manage this issue, there is a very important role of protein and fiber, because it improves satiety, it helps improve glucose management, and helps in weight management as well. So to cater to population with diabetes, we have something called Protein X Diabetes Care. It is tailor made for people for India, given the kind of diet that people have, and I think this was spoken about, that when people get diabetes, the first instinct is to reduce, and it's not to add. And what they reduce and what they add is generally the issue of, carbs again going up, versus, protein and fiber going up in their diet. And I think Ravina spoke a very important point for, pregnant mothers. What is important is the right fetus development. And again, there is an important role of protein and other, vital nutrients, for the important role which helps, the right fetus development. And what I would also say is that, what India also needs is that, once a child is born, it's important for the mother to take care of herself as well, because, she might be lactating, and breastfeeding her child. And that is where, a lot of mothers, they take a step back, because now the child is the center of the universe, and she gives all the attention to the child, but she needs to ensure that she takes care of herself as well. And, for that, of course, we have Protein X Mothers, which, helps both, during pregnancy and during lactation as well.
Dr. Sharma, we've spoken about, diabetes, we've spoken about the various supplements, we've spoken about kidney patients, Ravina spoke about, the mother and child. Specifically, how has protein helped your patients? And if I can ask you, how does protein-rich foods help with weight management? Again, like whether it's going to size 0, whether it's the various fads and diets. Tell us about protein when it comes to weight management.
So majority of our patients who come for weight management actually also have comorbidities. That means they have diabetes, they have cholesterol, they have a liver problem. We try to coach them to understand their bodies. Because a lot of people think that food gives energy. They don't realize food is basically the structure of the body. It creates the structure of the body. So we re-educate and create new habits. Now, fundamentally, if you tell me what are those 5-7 things which we should have to be healthy, first I would say is pick up some of the superfoods which are good, like methi dana. Like sprouted methi dana is very good. Amla is very good. Similarly, alsi, flaxseed is very good. Peanuts are very good. Chana, roasted chana, murmura you can make into a char, that's very good. Then I would say that make sure that you have variety, like millets. There's a national Abhiyaan on millets happening. Get more millets. Make them in different style. Make them into a roti, make them into a pizza base, make out of millets. So get out of your favorite styles, change the flour. the next thing what we also do is, because a lot of people, when they've been eating unhealthy, their livers get impacted. So we help them with vegetable juices. You'll be surprised if you're eating, I mean, if you go west, if they have a lot of meat, they have a bowl of salad and vegetables. Because why? Because they know to digest meat also you need salad and vegetables. So what we do is that we say have lots of vegetable juices. Put all the vegetables and make them beetroot, pumpkin, bottle gourd, mint leaves. Make them into a delicious vegetable juice. So what happens, instead of eating less, what they thought they have to do to lose weight, they're eating different. So to be healthy, you have to eat different. You don't have to eat less.
Yeah.
Eating different have to and eat boring also.
Yeah, and you have to eat boring, right?
Exactly.
Interesting, and so many ways to do it.
Yes,
I think,
yes.
Sure. अब सवाल डॉक्टर चक्रवर्ती के लिए कि देखिए पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी ये एक जो कमी है प्रोटीन की वो बनी रहती है, उसका चक्र हम कैसे तोड़ सकते हैं?
We are used to having more cereals. If you look into a Western diet, they'll have a huge plate of meat or something with a little piece of bread or something, a little bit of rice. But if you look into our people, especially rural areas, it'll be rice like this with a tiny bit of vegetable dal. So it's habit for years. And it's a whole lot of, so first of all, to breaking this habit of having less cereal and more of the other food, breaking the habit is a very difficult thing. It's a traditional age-old habit. So I'm extremely happy that this step is starting. Somebody has to start it, that to break this basic habit of having more of other things and reducing the cereal. So I think this is going to be a difficult job, but has to be done. At least bring a balance to it in some way. And secondly, what happens is the cost. We must agree that we may talk of food which are good in protein, high in protein, but the cost is a big factor. People can't afford. And if you look into it, that the Indian Consumer Economics Forum has indicated that among even the food budget, the amount spent on protein is minimal, less than 1/3. So therefore, when people are even among in the food budget, the amount spent on protein is also very minimal. So I think the whole thing is that you have to break this myth is one thing, habit is the second thing. How do you change on it? Third is the cost factor. And therefore, all these have to be taken into account. And I think starting from the grassroots levels on one side, like involving Anganwadis, Ashas, which is a very wonderful step. I mean, they are the ones who can bring in this and gradual change, reach out so many people. Yeah. And a gradual change that, and it'll never come from top. It'll gradually start. So it's a wonderful thing, I think, that you have started from the bottom, that you're reaching out to so many people. That's number one. And number two, government support on giving more extra subsidies on protein-rich food. Yeah. So this is something very, very important. And thirdly, I think as a whole supportive factor, the other cohesive steps like better health, less diarrhea, all these will actually help in a totality. So I think, we have to think of just saying will not be easy, but I think you have to bail the cat, and I'm very glad that this has actually started, that breaking and sort of changing a habit is we have seen for so many years. So this change of habit is going to be tough, but has to be done,
Absolutely. Mr. Shriram, this year the focus of the Protein X, Protein Abhiyaan is to make Indians healthy by driving the importance and awareness about protein, and that's what we've been discussing today. How is Danone contributing to this?
So we started, with the acknowledgement that there is an issue, and the issue is, how do we drive awareness, and how do we bring in a change in behavior. Towards this, of course, this year the season is going to be even bigger because we believe that if we have to bring some change in India, we have to drive impact. And I think, ma'am rightly pointed out that it has to reach the grassroots level as well. So we are working on two aspects of it. So one is on the awareness part of it. This year we are going to use different media to reach to as many people as possible, to tell them why there is a role of protein and why is it important to be considered. Yes. There will be various ways in which we'll be talking about, what are the prevalent myths, around about how to use, where to use, who to use for. So those are the aspects that we'll be bringing in. We are also taking this on ground. So I think, when you are able to demonstrate on a one-to-one kind of a scenario, it becomes even more impactful. It becomes even more acceptable, for the people. So that is something that, we'll be looking to do. And in terms of behavior, I think, Dr. Shikhar rightly pointed out, and even Dr. Mishra, that, people are not really aware. So where should we begin?
Yes.
So I think that's the first point. And usually the point has to also be sustainable. If the step is so difficult, that it cannot be sustained, then it's just one first step, then there is no second step. I think to aid for that, what we are doing this year is to, so what we have developed is something what we call a Nutri calculator. So it's an online, it's on the website. So, people can just go and log in terms of what their current dietary habits are. What it will tell you is, in terms of all the macros, so where are you right now versus where you should be, depending on the age, depending on the gender that the person is. And to help on this journey, we are also giving, people a free 30-day diet counseling to as many people as possible, because they need someone to be part of this journey. It is not just one is to tell you what's to be done, but it also more important is to be with you, so that, yes, absolutely. So this is what, in terms of both awareness and in terms of behavioral change, we are looking to do.
Absolutely wonderful. While it is important to educate people about the importance of adequate protein consumption for better nutrition and health, along with debunking myths and misconceptions about protein, access to this critical macronutrient is just as essential to stay healthy.
आज हमने बात की कि भारतीयों को प्रोटीन और जीवन शैली में दूसरी तब्दीलियों के साथ कैसे ज्यादा सेहतमंद बनाया जाए और कैसे प्रोटीन हमारे आहार का एक जरूरी अंग है। अब हमें आपकी मदद चाहिए इस संदेश को दूर दूर तक फैलाने के लिए। हमें जरूरत है एक ज्यादा स्वस्थ भारत और ज्यादा स्वस्थ आपके लिए। तो अब वो संकल्प हमें मिलकर करना होगा। हर 1000 संकल्पों पर एक आशा कर्मी को प्रोटीन एक्स का एक पैक मिलेगा। एक स्वस्थ आशा कर्मी एक स्वस्थ भारत का निर्माण करेगी। याद रखें कि अच्छी क्वालिटी का प्रोटीन मिलेगा, तभी भारतीय आबादी के लिए संतुलित आहार संभव हो पाएगा। तो हमारे साथ संकल्प कीजिए। देखने के लिए शुक्रिया।
Thank you all so much for joining us, Dr. Indira, Dr. Mishra, Dr. Shikhar, Mr. Shriram and Ravina ji. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks so much for watching.